Hey, Kyle Querec here, and today we have our third interview. New York City Broadway freelance bassist extraordinaire Marc Schmied. It's today on Music Minded. Come on. Let me try one more time. Just one more. Okay, Marc, question number one. Was there a first time, was there a moment, a person, a piece of music that you remember that enabled you to fall in love with music?
Man, I wish there was. It would be cooler if there was. My whole life, starting from when I was a little like 5 or 6 years old, I started taking classical piano lessons with my grandmother. It was it was always fun. It was always a challenge. Um, I do have a very vivid memory. One of the first times I ever played without, so I started playing in orchestra and I played classical piano with the music in front of me. But one of the first times I ever played without a music stand was with you, Kyle. It was playing that George Thorogood tune in the Gong Show or the Battle of the Bands, which
Oh
was
my.
not much of a battle because we're such a small town and a small high school. But I remember vividly. It's the kind of thing. I remember the curtain going. I remember being cool in the sound check, and it was fun in rehearsals. It wasn't even my bass. It was like a borrowed electric bass. I hadn't gotten that far, or maybe mine was crap, and I borrowed a better one. But I remember after always, having a music stand there, that we were our little 12-bar blues in E. There was no music stand, and the curtain went up, and I remember my knees shaking so much they were hitting each
Oh.
other. And I think we were called the Shades, and I think we wore sunglasses.
Was there a moment when you decided, you know what, I'm really enjoying this? I think I'm pretty decent, and I want to do this. I'm going to take a crack at doing this for the rest of my life.
I do have an answer for that, and I'll preface it by saying our mutual friend, rock star Earl Harvin, that he was intelligent and he could do all kinds of things, but he wasn't going to do all kinds of things. He was going to do music, full
Yeah.
stop. So I compared myself to him. I loved music. I wasn't great at it. I wasn't. I didn't have perfect pitch. I couldn't really sing. Couldn't really play in tune. I loved it. I could read music and I was getting into it, but I was interested in all kinds of things. So I compared myself to Earl and like, well, that's a music major right there. That's a musician right there. Me, I'm definitely undecided. So I went to Rutgers, which had a big school with a good music department and all kinds of other things. And then by the middle of sophomore year, which is when you're supposed to know, kind of at the latest, you have to declare a major. My thing was like, I, I'm falling more and more in love with it. I'm taking all the jazz classes. I'm taking all the classical classes. I'm listening to like Graceland had just come out, and I was listening to the Smiths, and all kinds of interesting pop music. And the short answer is, um, I didn't want to spend the rest of my life wondering whether I could have done it.
Was there a time where you felt legitimate? Like, here we go.
Mostly, I do Broadway. I fell into it purely for the money. I was listening to Bill Evans trios and Jaco Pastorius and Dexter Gordon Blue Notes, and I was going to slum. And I graduated Juilliard in 1994. So, I did some freelance classical. I played in the blues band. I played in the wedding band, a little of this, a little of that.
Yep.
And by 1998, a lot of my colleagues from school were subbing on Broadway. Some were getting their own shows. So I was going to go pick up the money, man. I was just in it for the money. Um, but the way subbing works on Broadway is you get through networking and talking to people and referrals, you get a chance to sub from somebody. Usually it's a Saturday night back when there was like a lot of work on weekends,
Right.
jingles and tours and all this stuff. You know, at some point in a long running show, the regular bass player who hires his or her own subs would get stuck. And that's where you want to be because they need somebody new. All the known players, they usually have a list of approximately 5 players. Every once in a while, they're all busy. I got my shot. And then the way it works is you sit next to the bass player or musician, any musician. You watch them play the show, maybe twice, maybe more. You get the recording, you get the music, and you do music minus one at home. You practice it at home until you say, I'm ready. And then you get a show, usually a matinee. So if you totally, stink up the joint, they don't, it's like maybe on a matinee or whatever.
Right.
And then you get a thumbs up or a thumbs down, or, you have to, they could just say, no, let's not have him back. Or
Sure.
they could say, let's have him back, but he has to improve these four things, you know, or this tune needs work, whatever. Um, so I subbed on my first show on Broadway called 1776 in 1998. And every single show is basically an audition for
Oh,
that show. So, and there's great players who don't get asked back. And there was
yeah.
that much competition. There's 50 bass players who do what I do, who would love every shot I've had on. I've done about 30 shows. They can be very, very picky, and and me as a player, I have to get super real with that. I've got to approach perfection.
Just a gig that stands out where you're like, oh my gosh, I hope I don't have another one of these.
I caught my hand in the steering wheel, and I broke my own hand. So I had a splint that I would wear when I was sleeping and not playing, and then actually went in with my bow and said, "This is how I have to hold my hand." So they made me a splint that
Oh my God, you're
for
kidding.
that position, and I was like Frankenstein. And also I and we were on tour, so I had to carry equipment and carry my bags, do everything with my left hand.
I just have to point something out here. Not only did he break his hand, not only did he have to do the gig, it's on an upright bass.
Yeah, yeah.
I can't just for anyone that's never played an upright bass at all, whether you play or not, just pick one up and just put your hands on it once.
So hand surgery was the phrase that was in my ear, and so for the whole tour, I did everything with my left hand. And actually, I came back, I was like a god. My left hand was so. And actually, at the beginning of the fourth week, I got a Broadway call
Oh
to
my.
do a show called Thoroughly Modern Millie,
Oh yeah.
and it was one of those last minute things. The guy called me on a Monday. I was already like kind of lamely at a rehearsal, but for an orchestra, I was hiding in the section. But he's like, "Can you do? I need someone for Thursday night. Do you want to come in and learn the show?" So I learned that show in 4 days.
Where's music going?
I know the ant. No, I have no idea. I've read enough music history to know that musicians have been saying it was better before, and the sky is falling. These are the end days. Music will always be with us. Uh, Even it's tougher now that it's very hard to compete with free, and it is affecting every musician on the planet, every professional musician who tries to derive income from it. You know, has lost or had greatly reduced income because of the freeness of music. Freeness, not a word. Um, Freedom. But the thing that they can't take away from me is, or any of us, is people need to hear it communally.
But what would you tell, let's say, a 24-year-old Marc Schmied if you could do it again musically? What advice would you give that young buck?
Right. I This is a little bass specific. Is that okay?
Sure, absolutely.
Solo on the bass, like Jaco Pastorius or Eddie Gomez, or in the classical world, Gary Carr. People who could make the bass sound like a legitimate solo instrument, which is the highest level of mastery
Sure.
and kind of its own thing. What I would tell 24-year-old Marc is if you're going to play bass, to love being in the rhythm section, love being an accompanist, and approach, put, and I'm writing a book on this actually. So to answer that question, I'm writing a book on being a bass doubler and what to practice. Because I was trying to learn the Bach cello suites and Portrait of Tracy when I should have been learning how to play, an A flat blues or a G flat blues or
Right.
to learn to really study the role of being a rhythm section accompanist, because that's what you do. As Ray Brown once said, Dizzy Gillespie doesn't pay me to come to his house and take bass solos.
Give me 3 of your favorite pieces of music, please.
Huh. Oh God.
Sorry.
Well, I've mentioned Bill Evans. I, absolutely fell in love with that piano trio. There's an album called "You Must Believe in Spring." It's a later album with Eddie Gomez and Elliot Zygmunt. That's a beautiful, beautiful trio record. You know, it's either Revolver or Rubber Soul, but I love every single album the Beatles did. But there's something really special about their middle period when still they're still trying to prove it. I mean, they had pretty much proved it, but Help and Hard Day's Night, that middle period where they're still playing, they're writing their own tunes. They're not the inner dynamics of the group they're still a group, and
Yeah.
they're still kind of in love with each other. And the acid hasn't totally blown out John, and Yoko hasn't shown up.
All right, that's 2. We need number 3.
The Cologne concert, Koln, or Cologne.
Okay.
It's the famous Keith Jarrett solo improvised piano concert from '74.
Food, sports, or travel?
Oh, food.
Oh, thank you.
I'm really into the Beyond Beef burger. I do enjoy a good burger. So there's like this relatively new thing called Beyond Meat, I think it's called. So one of them would be one of those with caramelized onions. My own guacamole would be the second one, like some rice and beans and maybe some seitan or
All right,
something.
all right, hold on. We're going to go back here. Guacamole. What do you put in it that besides, I mean, obviously cilantro, salt, pepper, whatever. There's going to be something crazy like chocolate kisses or something. What do you put in there?
Kyle, such an excellent question. It's funny because this was also how I flirted and eventually tricked this wonderful woman to be my wife, was talking about guacamole. First of all, I do lime. I like red onion.
Yes.
I've recently microplaned some garlic in there, raw garlic, not a lot, and it can upset some people's stomach, but it gives it a nice edge. A little bit of raw garlic. The X factor, which I know you're asking about, is
Oh, bring it.
cumin.
Number 9. Number 9.
Marc, where can we find you? Are you working on any projects right now? Anything that you have going on that you want to talk about upcoming?
I'm playing with an actor named Lauren Patten, who's currently in the Broadway show Jagged Little Pill.
Oh, yeah.
So on her YouTube channel, Lauren Patten, Patten, on YouTube. We've got some live stuff we haven't recorded yet. My previous rock band is called Tamika and the Sleigh, with the wonderful Tamika Lawrence that exists out there in the world. I'm subbing on the Broadway show Come From Away. I'm putting together, we didn't get to talk about my environmentalism yet, but
Oh, please go ahead.
I became a vegetarian in 2006 after watching the movie An Inconvenient Truth. And in recent years, I've been looking to do more and more. So I'm active with 350.org, the environmental group here in Brooklyn. And I've been asked to put together like a funky New Orleans brass band to play rallies and to make a joyful noise at our rallies. So that's debuting. It's called the Eco Tones.
Oh, how cool.
So we don't have anything on YouTube yet, but we will. And I'm in a world music group with Keve Wilson and Rachel Handeman. I think under YouTube you can find some videos of our stuff. And we have a gig at Chelsea Table in New York City, October 20-somethingth. So and we have some videos from recent concerts we've done. So I've got those projects going. Yeah.
Well, I'm so glad that you have a lot of work. Tremendous player, great guy. I've known him a long, long time. That we actually are just catching up here for the first time in decades. Marc, it was awesome to have you. He is Broadway freelance bassist, environmental activist Marc Schmied. We'll have links for some of those things that hopefully will help people to direct them to some of the stuff that you're doing. Man, it was thrilling catching up and hearing some of your story.
Yeah, it was great to have this time and to hang. Thank
Yeah,
you.
man. It is all about the hang, Marc. Thank you, brother. Have a great day, man. So glad to catch up with Marc today. You can tell that he's played everything: upright, fretless, 5-string, rock, classical, jazz. He's New York City Broadway freelance bassist Marc Schmied. He's an environmental activist and he's an author. Look for his book that's going to come out. We're so thrilled that he was with us today. Thanks for joining us today. I'm Kyle Querec, and it's Music Mind.
Gotta get me one of those.